A nation where 25 million people live cut off from the world. Where the internet is banned. Where owning a Bible means death. Where 3 generations of one family rule as gods. A country so isolated that satellite images show it almost completely. Dark at night while its neighbor blazes with light. This is North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the world's last true hermit kingdom. How did it become this way? How does it survive? And what's life really like inside the world's most secretive nation? This is the untold story of North Korea. What is a hermit nation? Before we dive into history, let's understand what makes North Korea a hermit nation. Total information control. No free internet only. A domestic internet with government-approved content, no foreign media possession. Of South Korean movies means prison camps, no international phone calls for ordinary citizens, all radio and TV. Sets are fixed to government channels. Tampering is illegal. Sealed borders. North Koreans cannot leave without permission. Attempting escape means execution or labor camps only. About 5,000 Western tourists visit per year under strict supervision. Foreign journalists are rarely allowed in and heavily monitored, even Chinese. Border is heavily guarded, despite their alliance extreme propaganda. Children taught that the Kim family has supernatural power. Citizens believe Kim Jong-il never defecated and could control weather. Schools teach that Americans are evil monsters who eat Korean children. The outside world is portrayed as suffering, while North Korea prospers self-isolation. North Korea has embassies in only 47 countries. International trade is minimal, except with China. Foreign aid is often rejected as a matter of pride. Regime calls this jucky self-reliance, and no other nation on earth controls its population this completely. But it wasn't always this way. Japanese occupation and the division narrator. To understand North Korea, we must go back to 1910, Japanese occupation. 1910 to 1945, Japan colonized Korea and ruled brutally for 35 years. They banned Korean language in schools. Forced Koreans to take Japanese names. Conscripted Korean men into their army. Used Korean women as comfort women. Sex slaves for Japanese soldiers. Exploited Korea's resources, and labor. Koreans resisted, but Japan crushed rebellions violently. This occupation created deep scars that North Korean propaganda still exploits today. World War II ends Korea's fate. Decided when Japan surrendered in August 1945, Korea was finally free. But freedom didn't last. At the Potsdam Conference, the Allied powers made a fateful decision. Korea would be temporarily divided. The Soviet Union would accept Japanese surrender north of the 38th parallel. The United States would handle the South. This temporary division became permanent. 2. Korea's emerge. By 1948, 2 separate governments formed. South Korea, the Republic of Korea, backed by the United States, capitalist, led by Syngman Rhee, himself an authoritarian, but anti-communist. North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, backed by the Soviet Union and China, communist, led by Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung was a guerrilla fighter who had battled the Japanese from Manchuria. The Soviets installed him as leader. He was 33 years old, young, ambitious, and ruthless. Both leaders claimed to be Korea's legitimate government. Both wanted reunification on their terms. Conflict was inevitable. The Korean War, 1950 to 1953. On June 25, 1950, at 4 a.m., North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel and invaded South Korea. Kim Il-sung had convinced Stalin and Mao Zedong to support his invasion. He believed South Korea would collapse quickly and the population would welcome communist liberation. He was wrong. The war unfolds. Phase 1. North Korean advance. June-September 1950. North Korean forces pushed south rapidly, nearly conquering the entire peninsula. South Korean and American forces were trapped in the Pusan perimeter in the southeast corner. Phase 2. UN counterattack, September-November 1950. General Douglas MacArthur launched a daring amphibious landing at Incheon, cutting North Korean supply lines. UN forces pushed north, capturing Pyongyang and approaching the Chinese border. Victory seemed near. MacArthur promised troops would be home by Christmas. Phase 3. Chinese intervention, November 1951. Then disaster struck. China, fearing UN forces on its border, sent hundreds of thousands of volunteers into Korea. Chinese human wave attacks overwhelmed UN forces. Seoul fell again. The war became a brutal stalemate. Phase 4. Stalemate and Armistice, 1951 to 1953. The front line stabilized near the 38th parallel, almost where it started. For 2 more years, brutal fighting continued for minimal gains. Finally, on July 27, 1953, an armistice was signed. Not a peace treaty, just a ceasefire. Technically, the Korean War never ended. The toll the Korean War killed approximately 2 to 3 million. North Korean civilians 1 to 2 million. South Korean civilians 400,000 plus. North Korean soldiers 200,000 plus. South Korean soldiers 36,000 plus. American soldiers 600,000 plus. Chinese soldiers. North Korea was devastated. American bombing destroyed nearly every building over 1 story. Entire cities were flattened. The civilian death toll was catastrophic. This destruction became central to North Korean identity, the narrative that America tried to destroy them, and only the Kim family's leadership saved them. Kim Il-sung, creating a dictatorship. The war. Kim Il-sung transformed North Korea into history's most extreme personality cult. Building the cult, Kim rewrote history, claiming he had single-handedly defeated the Japanese and Americans. Any rival who challenged him was purged, executed, or sent to labor camps. He created the Jung-il ideology, self-reliance. North Korea would depend on no one. This justified isolation and gave Kim total control. The propaganda machine citizens were taught Kim Il-sung was a godlike figure who performed miracles. He could control the weather. He never made mistakes. Questioning him meant treason. Kim family's bloodline was sacred schools taught that Kim fought 100,000 battles against Japan. Impossible. Those flowers bloomed when he walked by. That he wrote 1,000 books. He barely wrote any. The Songbun system. Kim created a caste system called Songbun, classifying every citizen by family background. Core class, families loyal to Kim, families of Korean War heroes. They got good jobs, lived in Pyongyang, and received better food rations. Wavering class, neutral families, most North Koreans. Limited opportunities, lived in smaller cities. Hostile class, families with South Korean connections. Former landowners, Christians. Intellectuals. They faced discrimination, lived in remote areas, and did hard labor. Your Songbun determined everything. Where you lived, what job you could have, who you could marry, whether you could join the military. The prison camp system Kim established. Kwanliso political prison camps. Entire families were imprisoned for one member's crime. Crimes included criticizing the regime, trying to escape owning foreign media, religious practice, even accidentally damaging Kim's image. An estimated 200,000 people are imprisoned in these camps today. Survivors report starvation, torture, public executions, and forced labor. Economic approach. Surprisingly, North Korea's economy did relatively well in the 1960s-70s. Soviet and Chinese aid helped rebuild. Heavy industry developed. Living standards were comparable to South Korea until the 1970s, but this was unsustainable. The economy was built on foreign aid, not productivity. Death and succession Kim Il-sung died in 1994 at age 82. North Koreans were required to publicly mourn, wailing and crying in the streets. Anyone not crying enthusiastically enough was reported. His son, Kim Jong-il, had been groomed for decades to succeed him. The world's first communist dynasty was established. Kim, Jong-il, famine and nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-il was different from his father. Shorter, more eccentric, obsessed with movies, but equally ruthless. The Great Famine, 1994 to 1998. Kim Jong-il inherited a country on the brink of collapse. When the Soviet Union fell in 1991, Soviet aid, North Korea's lifeline, ended. China reduced support. Then came natural disasters. Floods in 1995-96 destroyed harvests. The government's economic mismanagement made everything worse. The result: the arduous march. North Korea's official name for the famine that killed 2 to 3 million people out of a population of 22 million. That's 10 to 15% of the population dead from starvation. People ate grass, tree bark, and sawdust. Parents fed their children first and starved themselves. Orphaned Kachibi children roamed the streets. Bodies lay in the streets. The regime's response? Deny the famine. Blame it on American sanctions. Request international food aid, then distribute it to the military and elites first. Nuclear ambitions. Despite economic collapse, Kim Jong-il prioritized nuclear weapons. His Songun, military-first policy meant military got resources before civilians. Nuclear and missile programs received funding while people starved. The Army was North Korea's most important institution. In 2006, North Korea conducted its first nuclear test. The international community imposed sanctions. North Korea didn't care. It had the bomb. The personality cult intensifies. Kim Jong-il's propaganda was even more absurd than his father's. He supposedly shot 38 under par, including 11 holes in one. The first time he played golf, he never defecated. His body was so perfect, it processed all food completely. Wrote 1,500 books during university. Impossible. He could control the weather and communicate with animals. Cultural control. Kim Jong-il loved movies. He kidnapped South Korean film director Shin Sang-ok and actress Choi Yoon-hee, forcing them to make propaganda films. He owned 20,000 DVDs, despite banning foreign films for citizens. Death and succession. Kim Jong-il died in December 2011, reportedly, from a heart attack on his private train. His youngest son, Kim Jong-un, just 27 years old, inherited power. Many expected the regime to collapse. It didn't. Kim Jong-un, the modern Hermit. Kim Jong-un was educated in Switzerland. He'd experienced the outside world. Analysts hoped he might reform North Korea. Instead, he became the most brutal Kim yet, consolidating power through terror within. Months of taking power, Kim Jong-un began purging threats. 2013, executed his uncle Jang Song-thaek, the second most powerful man in North Korea, for treason. Reports say he was killed with anti-aircraft guns in front of officials as a warning. 2017, assassinated his half-brother Kim Jong-nam in Malaysia using VX nerve agent, one of the most toxic substances on Earth. Kim Jong-nam had criticized the regime and was seen as a potential rival. Hundreds of officials have been executed or disappeared. Kim tolerates no opposition. Nuclear acceleration. Kim Jong-un rapidly advanced the nuclear program. 2013, 2016, 2017. Multiple nuclear tests, each more powerful, developed ICBMs, potentially capable of reaching the United States 2017 hydrogen bomb. Test, the largest yet each test violated UN resolutions. Each brought more sanctions. Kim didn't care. 2017. The brink of war tensions with President Trump escalated dangerously. Kim called Trump a dotard. Trump called Kim Little Rocket Man. Trump threatened fire and fury. Both countries seemed on the brink of war. Then, unexpectedly, 2018. Historic summit. Kim Jong-un met Trump in Singapore, the first meeting between a sitting U.S. president and North Korean leader. They shook hands, smiled for cameras, and nothing changed. Followed up summits in Vietnam, and the DMZ produced no agreements. North Korea kept its nuclear weapons. COVID-19 isolation. When COVID hit in 2020, North Korea sealed its borders completely even from China. The economy, already struggling, collapsed further. Kim admitted in 2021 that the economic situation was tense. Recent developments. 2022 to 2024. North Korea conducted record numbers of missile tests, strengthened ties with Russia, and China sent weapons to Russia for the Ukraine war. Constitutional changes, formally declaring South Korea as an enemy liaison inside North Korea today. What's daily life actually like in North Korea? Information is limited, but defector testimonies, leaked footage, and satellite imagery reveal the reality. Pyongyang versus the rest. Pyongyang, the capital, is a showcase. Only loyal citizens live there. It has tall buildings and monuments better. Electricity, though still frequent blackouts. Markets with some imported goods. The Rujiang Hotel, a 105-story pyramid that remains unfinished after 30 years. Pyongyang represents maybe 10% of the population. The rest of North Korea is drastically different. Daily struggles for ordinary North Koreans. Food. Rations are supposed to provide 300 to 400 grams of grain per day, barely enough to survive. Many rations never arrive. People grow vegetables in private plots, trade in black markets, or go hungry. Electricity. Outside Pyongyang, power is rare. Satellite images show North Korea nearly dark at night. People use candles or generators if they can afford fuel. Water. Clean water is scarce. People collect rainwater or use contaminated sources, causing disease. Healthcare. Officially free, actually non-existent. Hospitals lack medicine, electricity, and equipment. Patients must bring their own food and medical supplies. Doctors perform surgery without anesthesia. The surveillance state, every aspect of life is monitored. In Minbin, neighborhood watch groups where citizens spy on each other. Meetings are held weekly to report suspicious activity. Wandering allowed. Citizens need travel permits to move between cities. You can't just visit family in another province. 3 generations punishment. If you commit a crime, your parents, children, and grandchildren are also punished, imprisoned in camps to eliminate hostile bloodlines. Mandatory activities. Weekly self-criticism sessions where you confess mistakes and criticize others. Constant political study sessions participation. In mass rallies and military parades. Mandatory volunteering for regime projects. The black markets, ironically. Illegal black markets now keep North Korea functioning. After the famine, people had to survive somehow. Markets sell food and necessities, Chinese goods smuggled across the border, DVDs of South Korean dramas. Highly illegal, but popular. Information. From the outside world, the regime can't shut down markets completely. People would starve. So they coexist uneasily. Escape and defectors. About 30,000 North Koreans have escaped to South Korea since the 1990s. The journey is dangerous. Cross into China, where they can be caught and sent back. Travel through China to a third country, Mongolia, Thailand, Laos, finally reach South Korea. Women who escape often face human trafficking in China. Caught defectors face torture or execution. What do North Koreans know? Despite propaganda, many North Koreans know the regime lies. Smuggled USB drives with South Korean dramas show them how wealthy the South is. Chinese merchants bring news. Border guards who travel to China see the truth, but knowing and speaking out are different. Speaking out means death. Why does North Korea remain isolated? Why hasn't North Korea collapsed? Why does it remain a hermit kingdom? Reason 1. China doesn't want North Korea to collapse. A collapsed North Korea means millions of refugees flooding into China, a unified Korea, allied with the United States on China's border instability in the region. So, China provides enough support to keep the regime alive: food, fuel, trade. Without China, North Korea would collapse within months. Reason 2. Nuclear weapons. The nuclear program ensures survival. North Korea learned from Iraq and Libya. Countries that gave up WMD programs were invaded. Nuclear weapons guarantee the regime won't be overthrown externally. Kim Jong-un will never give up these weapons. They're his ultimate insurance policy. Reason 3. Information. Control. The regime controls information so completely that organizing resistance is nearly impossible. People don't know who they can trust. The surveillance system makes plotting suicidal. Reason 4. No outside pressure works. Sanctions haven't worked. Diplomatic engagement hasn't worked. The regime is willing to let its people suffer indefinitely. There's no external pressure strong enough to force change without risking war. Reason 5. The military. Million-man army is loyal. They're fed better, treated better, and have too much to lose from regime collapse. They'll fight to preserve their privileges. Reason 6. No internal organization. Unlike the Soviet Union or Eastern Europe, North Korea has no civil society, no independent organizations, no churches, no labor unions, nothing that could organize resistance. The grim reality. Long as China supports them, North Korea will survive. The Hermit Kingdom will remain closed, and 25 million people will continue living in the world's largest prison, Seonsil North. Korea is an anomaly in the modern world, a totalitarian hermit kingdom that shouldn't exist in the 21st century. Yet does. It's a nation built on lies, that the Kim family is divine, that North Korea is prosperous, that the outside world envies them, that their isolation is strength rather than weakness. It's a nation sustained by suffering, millions dead from war, famine, and political purges, hundreds of thousands imprisoned in camps, an entire population denied basic freedoms we take for granted.
The history of Palestine and Israel,
But it's also a testament
the
to how
partition of
information
India,
control,
the Cultural Revolution,
propaganda,
the Khmer
and fear
Rouge.
can trap an entire society. When people don't know what's possible, when they're punished for imagining alternatives, when they're surrounded only by regime messages, resistance becomes nearly impossible. The most tragic part? Ordinary North Koreans aren't that different from anyone else. They love their families. They want better lives for their children. They have dreams and hopes, but they're trapped in a system designed to keep them isolated, ignorant, and obedient. A hermit kingdom where knowledge is dangerous, questions are treasonous, and curiosity can kill you. Satellite images show the stark reality. South Korea blazes with light cities, highways, prosperity. North Korea is almost completely dark, a void on the map. One people, two countries, two completely different destinies. Will North Korea ever open? Will the Hermit Kingdom emerge from isolation? Will the Kim Dynasty ever fall? No one knows. But until it does, 25 million people remain cut off from the world, living in history's most extreme experiment in totalitarian control. This is North Korea, the hermit nation, the country that time forgot, the last place on Earth where the Cold War never ended. If this video gave you a new perspective on North Korea, please like and subscribe for more content exploring the world's most fascinating and troubling places. Share your thoughts in the comments, but remember, this isn't about politics. It's about understanding how 25 million real people live in conditions we can barely imagine. Thank you for watching.